And good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. And again, this is what I call my Morning Musings. We are looking at Revelation chapter 11, spending a good bit of time on it. And the reason for it is very simple. The parallels between Revelation chapter 11, 10 and 11, and Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following are tremendous, and they are important. Now, virtually everyone goes to Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following, and they tell us, oh, this is the end of time. This is the gathering of all the nations before the literal white throne of God. This has got to be Revelation chapter 22, 10 and following, or whatever. And yet, strangely, this is amazing. Many Reformed amillennial and postmillennial as well commentators come to Revelation chapter 11, 15 and following, and they tell us, oh, this was fulfilled in AD 70. Kenneth Gentry, noted postmillennialist, says Revelation chapter 11 is about the end of Old Covenant Israel's relationship with God in AD 70. Keith Matheson, who, well, he vacillates back and forth so very often from book to book. You don't really know what he believes at any given time. But at one time, and I can document this, by the way, if anyone wishes to have the quote, but Keith Matheson goes to Revelation chapter 11, and he says, the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our God and of his Christ, and we rule and we reign with them now. And he cites Revelation chapter 11, 15 and following. Okay, that happened in AD 70 according to Keith Matheson, and then he turns right around and says that although the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our God and of his Christ, and even though we rule in and we reign with him right now, it's like, well, not really. We're waiting to see the full realization of that. And by the way, he does the same thing on Hebrews chapter 12. You have not come to the mountain that could not be touched, but burned with fire and tempest and smoke. And if so much as an angel touched it, it shall be thrust through with a spear. You have come to Mount Zion. And Keith Matheson is on record as saying, we today possess every single blessing that was promised to the Old Testament worthies. Okay? The Old Testament worthies were promised resurrection. Resurrection from the dead. And Keith Matheson is on record saying, we today possess everything that was promised to the Old Testament prophets. Do you see what happens here? You really ought to read the comments, by the way, of Peter Leithart on Revelation chapter 11, 15 and following. They're stunning in many ways. I would offer a couple of caveats as you read down through it and his application, but nonetheless, they're stunning. And you're going, well, amen. But do you see what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen? Commentator after commentator after commentator sees that the context of Revelation chapter 11 is unequivocally, undeniably, without any possibility of refutation, about the destruction of Jerusalem. And boy, I tell you very often, I am literally stunned from time to time at the, quote, argumentation that is offered by some who were at one time preterists, but now they've abandoned the truth, and they're trying to find some argument, some nail to hang on to justify their abandonment of the truth. And I was in a conversation on Facebook with one of them not long ago, and I cited the irrefutable fact that Revelation chapter 11 is about the destruction of the city, quote, where the Lord was crucified. And this individual comes back and he says, well, I know that you think you have a great argument here. It's a rough paraphrase, obviously. But he said, the truth is, Jesus was not crucified in Jerusalem. So your whole argument falls apart. Well, then that means he cannot identify any, listen to me, he cannot identify any future city as Sodom or Egypt or Babylon, because no future city is the city in which Jesus was crucified. But you see, he's trying to eliminate Jerusalem as the city where the Lord was crucified. Why? Well, because Jesus wasn't crucified within the walls in the city of Jerusalem. Well, guess what? He wasn't crucified within the walls of any city. And so this, what I called and what I told him, this argumentum ad desperatum destroys itself and eliminates any city of any time as being the city, quote, where. And that's what the text says, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't say the city in which Jesus was crucified. It is where the Lord was crucified. Well, where was Golgotha? At Jerusalem. You don't find any ancient writer going, well, Golgotha was, a little bit outside the gates there, so it wasn't Jerusalem. That's, you'll just have to excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, that's asinine. That's ridiculous. Has no merit whatsoever. So, anyway, commentator after commentator agrees with the fact that Revelation is about the destruction of Jerusalem. Look, even many late-date advocates agree with this. And they say that John is looking back retrospectively at the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70 to give some kind of a moral lesson for what's coming. No, that's ridiculous as well. It just doesn't work. And so, when we come to consider Revelation chapter 11 and the identity, the context and the framework for the destruction that is described, and even for the identity of the two witnesses, there are an awful lot of things that we have to take into consideration. And obviously, where the Lord was crucified is chief among them. But there's something else here, ladies and gentlemen. In Revelation chapter 11, in describing this city that was going to be given over to the Gentiles and be trodden down for 42 months, we have, in this description, an absolute, I am convinced, an absolute nail to hang our hat on. Okay, so this holy city is going to be trodden under the foot of the Gentiles for 42 months. We have a direct parallel with this, ladies and gentlemen, in Luke chapter 21. And I have to tell you, I get so many comments on this from my dispensational friends who say, well, you are just absolutely, completely taking everything out of the context because the holy city shall be trodden underfoot for 42 months. And that, we are told, is the times of the Gentiles. Well, I agree with that. But my dispensational friends tell us, but well, you see, the times of the Gentiles are the times from the time when Nebuchadnezzar, the Gentile king of the Babylonians, conquered Jerusalem, and from that point forward, Jerusalem was under the rule, under the control of the Gentiles, and remained so until 1948, or some put it as 1966, or 67, excuse me. Pat Robertson says the times of the Gentiles ended in 1967. Oh, well, we got a problem there. That was over 50 years ago. And therefore, we should have seen the fulfillment of Revelation chapter 11 by now. So let me take just a moment here this morning to talk about the times of the Gentiles. Now, I have a couple of really good articles on my website, donkpreston.com. Just go to the search tab and type in times of the Gentiles. Because you see, the dispensational view of and definition of the times of the Gentiles simply will not work. But look at Luke chapter 21, verse 24. Now, mind you that 99% of all dispensationalists believe and acknowledge and agree Luke chapter 21, 20 and following have to do with AD 70. In other words, they believe that the fall of Jerusalem is related to the times of the Gentiles. Now, this gives you a real conundrum, folks. If the times of the Gentiles, quote, began in AD 70, then you're giving up and you're surrendering the view that the times of the Gentiles began in BC 586. Okay? You surrendered that view. But that view was a staple view, a staple tenet in dispensationalism for years. So now you're going to shift gears and say, oh, well, you know, the times of the Gentiles began in AD 70. Well, wait a minute. What are you going to do with 1948? Well, there have been some dispensational writers who have said, 1948, restoration of Israel. And Israel conquered Jerusalem. We must be in the end. You know, 1948, Super Sign of the End by Thomas Ice and Tim LaHaye. None of which has come to pass. Not any of it. So here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. In Revelation, the holy city, which is where the Lord was crucified, would be trodden underfoot 42 months. That means that the times of the Gentiles was for 42 months. That was the duration of the Jewish war, give or take just a, insignificant amount of time. We have then in Revelation chapter 11 the divine interpretation of the times of the Gentiles, and it's 42 months. It is not 2,000 years. And watch this. Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. Luke 21 verse 24. And we are told, okay, that's the situation beginning in AD 70. There's a serious, insurmountable linguistic problem with that. The word that is translated as trodden down is from the Greek word pateo. Pateo, according to all Greek lexicons, and, by the way, according to the book of Lamentations, according to Jeremiah, according to Isaiah, the word pateo, both in the Septuagint and in the Koine of the New Testament, meant active military warfare. Now look, ladies and gentlemen, there have been, since AD 70, long periods in which there was no active military warfare against Jerusalem. Since 1948, there have been long periods of extended non-military, non-warfare against Jerusalem. The Greek word pateo does not allow for, and it's not to be defined as, pateo means that the Gentiles might have control over Jerusalem, not that they were also always attacking it. No. Trodden down, pateo, means active military warfare. Thus, if you're going to argue that the times of the Gentiles began against Jerusalem in AD 70, then you must be able to prove definitively that since AD 70, or from 1948, or from 1967, or from 1973. But you see, you got periods of time. You got to what? You got the 7-day war, 6-day war, and then it was over. No potatoing going on. Let me say this again, and let me encourage you. Go to my website, put in the search bar, times of the Gentiles. Ladies and gentlemen, the fact that Revelation says Jerusalem would be trodden down, or the holy city would be trodden down 42 months, says that the times of the Gentiles would be for 42 months. That means the ministry of the two witnesses was 42 months. I don't know their names. I don't have to know their names. I know how long their ministry was to be confined to. And it wasn't a ministry, a miraculous ministry that has extended for 2,000 years. Out of time. I'll see you on the flip side.